Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Rednu, and welcome to another episode on how to train your horse girl. We are going to be looking at today Mayano Top Gun. In this series, what we try and do is we do a career playthrough with a specific character, and we usually do so with cards that are very accessible to newer players or a little more relatable in that we don't use any SSR cards of our own, but we do borrow one SSR card from a friend. And this is intended to be relatable to new players. It's intended to go over the fundamentals and get into the specifics on like in what situations would you choose a certain training, when should you do an optional race. If you had any questions like that, if you wanted to just play along and see how exactly a playthrough would go with a specific character, this series is for you. And today, this video is going to be for Mayano Top Gun. Now, what do you want to do when you decide to do a run with an UMA? You first want to be able to check out these two buttons, the career info and the details. Details is going to tell you everything about the umamusume, her base stats, her aptitudes, her growth rate. These are all very important. We can see over here that Mayano Top Gun doesn't have a lot of power, and power is acceleration, power is sideways movement, the ability for an UMA to take over and basically move around someone else. And so we could see that Mayano Top Gun isn't very suited for it. Her growth rate has 20% stamina, 10% guts. That means that whenever you do train, if it does improve those stats, you get a 20% improvement for stamina, 10% improvement for guts. Our goal here, or from what we could see, Mayano Top Gun is much more suited to be a front runner or a pace chaser, in that she is not wanting to be in a struggle or conflict with too many other UMAs, at least if the base stats are any indication. Now, obviously, with umamusume, it's a pretty freeform game. You can borrow and inherit different stats to compensate for these weaknesses or even boost them higher, right? But what we like to do here is try and lean into what an UMA is sort of designed for, because newer players typically don't have the resources to boost these stats beyond normal means. So what do you also want to take a look at? Well, you want to take a look at the style. She wants to run in the front. She wants to be a pace chaser. But you could also tell with Mayano Top Gun that she has an aptitude for pretty much anything. She has a B rating for being a late surger and an end closer, which all in all says that she's pretty flexible. All she needs is one spark, one pink aptitude spark, in order to boost this up to an A rating. And you want to make sure that you're using A ratings for pretty much anything that's not style. Style, you could be pretty freeform. You could switch around during the career. But you want to try and maintain A rating and do tracks and courses that match these A ratings in order to get the most out of your UMA. Because if you, let's say, ran Mayano Top Gun on a sprint track, she will suffer like a minus 50, minus 60% speed. And that's just not going to be sustainable. It's going to be really difficult for Mayano Top Gun to win any sort of race if she's running at half speed, right? Track is also going to affect your acceleration, and that's just not going to be a good idea. So she is a turf racer. She is specialized in the long distance tracks. And how can you really tell that Mayano Top Gun does it? Well, you can take a look at her race potential screen, which tells you all the skills that are available to her. But you can also take a look at her skills that she starts with innately. First Place Kiss is Mayano Top Gun's unique skill. This is what largely defines her and her playstyle. Slightly increased ability to break out of the pack on the straight after engaging in a challenge toward the front on the final corner. So basically, on the final corner, Mayano Top Gun, if she's being challenged for her first place position, which is pretty often, right, if you're a front runner, because the final corner is where a lot of different strategies, pace chasers and late surgers and end closers pretty much try to overtake that first place. It's the part of the race that has the most conflict. So First Place Kiss is a perfect ability for Mayano Top Gun to have to try and regain or further extend her lead. So we are going to try and see what we could do to activate this more often, and how we do that is by putting her in the front running or pace chasing strategy. Either of these work perfectly for this ability. Now, straightaway recovery here recovers her HP, her endurance. This is really good for long distance tracks, and stamina recovery abilities are always really good, because during the late race is when a UMA is going to enter their last spurt. but they enter their last spurt sooner or later, depending on how much HP they have. So any HP recovery skill is going to be very good in allowing a long distance Uma to start their last spurt sooner. Next ability is Deep Breaths. It's another heal ability. It only applies on long distance tracks. And if you take a look at the description, there's not a lot of conditions for it, which is perfect. That's what you kind of want to see. And Leader's Pride is a front runner strat, or sorry, a skill. It helps Mayano Top Gun fight for the first place position, which front runners want to be in because some of their skills depend on them being in first place position. So Leader's Pride is nice for that. However, you can totally run her as a pace chaser. If you have this ability and you're using a pace chaser strategy, note that it will not be able to activate it. But that's enough for Mayano Top Gun skills. What do we look at over here is a career info. This is the second button everyone should pick, especially when learning a new character. We have Run in Junior Make Debut, that's normal. Earn 10,000 fans, that's quite a bit. However, it gives us a good time limit of Classic Year early July. And what we see here is the Kikuka Show, the Arima Kinen, the Hanshin Daishoten. These are all long distance tracks, 3,000 meters, Arima Kinen 2,500 meters, and Hanshin Daishoten 3,000 meters. These are very long distance tracks. And what is going to be very important when building Mayano Top Gun is making sure she has the stamina to clear these 3,000 meter tracks. And we have to place top 3, top 2. These are high requirements. So Mayano Top Gun is definitely a very ambitious horse, to be sure. Note also that there is not a lot of time in between these courses, in between these goals. Tenno Sho Spring is very highly regarded as a career killer. It is the longest track that most people have in their career goals, 3,200 meters. And yeah, there's not a lot of time in between Hanshin Daishoten and Tenno Sho Spring either. You have late March into late April. That is just 2 or 3 turns away. That is quite a bit. That is quite a bit of sort of goals that you have to do for all of these, and not a lot of time to prepare in between. So it is imperative that we have a very good start and that we prepare as much as we can, starting from the very first goal. Following Tenno Sho Spring, you have Takarazuka Kinen. That's medium distance track. We can kind of ease up on the stamina training following that. Tenno Sho Autumn is another medium distance track, 2,000 meters. Pretty easy to clear, especially if we have the stamina to clear the other ones before it. And Arima Kinen is at the very end, again in the senior year, 2,500 meter track. We should be able to clear that for stamina, so long as we're able to survive the gauntlet that is Kikuka Show into Tenno Sho Spring. Let's go ahead and do the legacies here. Now, we don't really have ideal legacies. I have a Ogre Recap that gives me 3 stars in speed. That means we get 26 stat in speed. We also have another star over here, but generally speaking, what you're going to want to do whenever you pick an umamusume, you do want to find good friends to borrow from, and who have as many of these blue sparks as possible, or rather stars in these blue sparks as possible, because every Uma will have 3, 1 from themselves and 1 each from their parents, right? So you want to try and have as many stars as possible on these. Typically speaking, you're looking for stamina at the very top, power if not stamina, and speed as third. You don't want to run, guts, or wit. Not that you want to avoid them, but they just don't really provide any benefit. So we are going to move forward from there. This is the deck that we're using, and deck building, deck composition generally really depends on like the counts, not too much on the cards themselves, especially as someone with very little resources. Asian Flash is going to be a nice stat stick card. Any one card that has specialty priority is going to be very useful to us because it's going to enable friendship training, as you'll see in the playthrough that we're about to do. Silent Suzuka is a card that also has specialty priority, and we also have skills for front runner straightaways, front runner corners. So these are really nice skills for front runners, especially focus as well. We have Maruzensky as well. Not really good skills in terms of what we need. They are mild distance skills, but however, she does have specialty priority, and that's why we run her. Wit card over here is Daiwa Scarlet. You usually want to run 1 wit card, but it's also okay to just skip it out as well. But what we like about wit cards, or what I like about wit cards, is the wit friendship recovery. So whenever we do friendship training on the wit training, then she will help us recover 3 extra energy every time we do that. Specialty priority 38 means she's going to land on that wit training more often, and that's definitely what you want to see from a wit training card. A lot of the wit cards for SRs are pretty good. Manhattan Cafe specialty priority with the unique perk is going to stack multiplicatively with the support effect specialty priority, meaning she'll land on stamina training more often, which is gonna be good, and you'll see exactly why as we do this playthrough. Long skills as well, passing pro as well as long straightaways, so very good stamina card. And finally, we have Super Creek that we're borrowing. Anyone can borrow a card as long as you friend. You could take a look at all these cards and keep refreshing until you see high rarity cards or cards with more limit breaks on them. And we are going to be using Super Creek because Super Creek is valued for her skill, Swinging Maestro. This is a huge stamina recovery skill that is meant to help people clear long distance tracks, especially beginners. And you also have good specialty priority with her unique perk coupled with her support effect, meaning she'll land on stamina training more often. Alright, that's it for the deck, that's it for the character. Let's go ahead and get into the game. Alright, let's start. Inspiration, this is what happens at the start of every run. You know the results of it. As soon as you pick your Legacy Uma, it tells you exactly what stats you'll get. There'll be 2 other inspiration events that are significantly different from that one, in that we'll get a random assortment of these sparks as opposed to a predetermined known set of them, right? Let's go ahead and look at all the trainings. What you want to do whenever you get into the screen is look at all the trainings: speed, stamina, power, guts, wit. Where do you see a lot of these friends hanging out at and training? And what we're going to do is going to go with speed over here. Not only do we get a hint, which is these pink exclamation points, and so that's going to allow us to build friendship faster with whoever that Uma is, as well as get a skill hint. A skill hint is going to allow us the ability to buy whatever skill they give us a hint for. So in the case of Super Creek, she gave us a hint for ramp up. So we have a hint for ramp up. It has a discount on it. We can spend 153 skill points whenever we do get that to learn that skill. However, mostly what I like skill hints for in the early game especially is just being able to build that friendship faster. By training with an Uma, you get 7 friendship, and by training an Uma or training with an Uma with a hint, you get an additional 5, so that's 12 in total. That's almost double. That's really, really good. So we are looking at trainings that have the most Umas on it, and especially if they land on the training that is our preferred trainings, like in our case, speed and stamina, right? Mayano Top Gun has high requirements for stamina because she requires to clear a lot of long distance tracks, so we are going to be focusing on it. And the reason why we want to do trainings and be more biased towards trainings that are like our desired stats is because the more we train in those stats, the faster the facilities will level up. Right now, if you notice, every facility is level 1, and the more we train in it, the more the faster it'll become higher leveled. Now let's go ahead and take a look over here. More speed training here, and so this is going to pull me towards it, but we also see that Super Creek is on there with lower friendship than others, and typically what we want is to build everyone's friendship at an even sort of rate, a balanced sort of rate, because we want all these friendships to kind of come online. They come online when we hit that 80 mark, the 4th bar, at the same time. Now, you'll see exactly why when we do unlock those friendships. It's going to give us a huge boost in stats whenever we do those trainings with them, but you'll see exactly why visually in a bit. But going to keep training. Speed, stamina, speed, stamina, power is very good. These are the main 3 stats you're looking to kind of balance or play around with the most. Whereas guts is pretty much anyone can avoid, and wit is a stat where it kind of coincidentally comes up because notice our energy over here, right? Our energy over here is like maybe around 90, 80, and if we train wit, we will actually regain energy, but we also gain stats. So it's a nice way to have like a smaller rest, a very smaller version of a rest, and see what the next training will be able to get. Over here, Director Akikawa is part of the friends that are training with us. However, she's not really a friend. She's not part of our support deck. She doesn't provide the same benefits as other Umas that do belong to our support deck. Notice that all these Umas with like this little icon over here are the friends that we brought from our support deck. Now, what I'm going to do over here is I am going to train speed because Asian Flash has a little less friendship, and training friendship, or rather training speed, is important because, as you saw over there, we were able to level up the speed training facility. Now, the facility is higher. Now we have more improved stats whenever we train speed, and we can raise this level all the way up to 5, and that's generally the goal. What we're going to do over here is hit this power training. And that's going to help us build friendships with Silent Suzuka and Asian Flash. Now, most veterans will tell you to not buy skills in the beginning or early on. And this is generally true if you're not having trouble with any of these races. However, if you are new to the game, I do suggest buying a skill before every race, especially if you're anxious about clearing that race or not sure if you're going to win it. We're going to buy Triumphant Pulse. This is a unique skill passed down to us by our Legacy Ogre Cap. It's her signature, her unique skill, and it does synergize pretty well with First Place Kiss. If you take a look and read the description, it helps us break out of the pack. So we're going to go ahead and start. It is a turf medium track, and you always want to make sure that you have A aptitudes on pretty much everything. However, again, strategy is not too important. Whatever strategy you think is more able to be applied is something you can do no matter the grade, because it doesn't activate or rather affect skill activation rate, including front runner. Like, let's say if someone had a G rating on front runner. So don't be afraid to change different strategies, especially if one strategy just isn't working for you. That's always very valid. We are going to go ahead and skip this race though. View results. Here we go. First place. Very nice. All right. And we won by a neck, apparently. That is a little scary. You can see the distance that we cleared west side from. It is from by a neck that we were able to win. But a win's a win, and that's always very good to have, especially for your make debut. If you don't win your make debut, what happens is you're going to be stuck with having to clear another make debut type of race, which has low fans, which is generally not very rewarding to get until you do clear that type of race, what is called a maiden race. But let's take a look at our trainings here. Notice that because we have lower energy, now our trainings have some failure rates on them. However, they're pretty low failure rates, for low enough for us to ignore. And so what I'm going to be looking at here is which friend do I want to train with. And I'm going to go ahead and pick this Guts here. It's going to give me my friendship with Daiwa Scarlet, but it's also going to give me 12 friendship with Super Creek. So we'll go ahead and do that, even though normally we don't want to train Guts much, if at all, right? Now, there is a crucial step that I forgot to do starting from the previous turn, and that is to look at the races. Every time you complete a race, you kind of want to look ahead and see what the schedule is following. Now, the previous turn, why I didn't check is because there are no races right after you complete a make debut, but following that there are. And what you want to be looking for are races that you have a star rating on, okay? If you have a star rating on it, then that means your UMA has at least a B rating or higher on it, and that it's suitable for them to run in or have a good chance at it. So we're going to be taking a look at all the races. We want to look at for races that are going to be easy for Mayano Top Gun to run. And here's the first one, Nakayama Turf. It is going to be fall time for them. It's a medium distance track. It is a turf track. And why we need to do this is to get fans. And we are going to want to do Nakayama Turf. We're going to schedule it. And basically, when our turn count, when we hit late September, the game will notify us, say, hey, you scheduled this race. Do you still want to race it, or do you want to train, right? And give us that option. But why we want to do that is because if we go further, you can see that we're able to race G3 races, and we are able to race G2 races as well. However, if you failed your make debut, your junior make debut, your maiden race, you might not have enough fans to do G2 races. So always check early. Always make sure that you're able to do the races that you want. The higher grade races there are, the tougher the competition will be, and the more fans they are able to offer you. So because I'm able to do G2 races, it's very good. It looks like I'm able to even do G1 races with the number of fans that I have. So that's very nice. Hopeful Stakes is probably what I'm going to be aiming for as well. So we're going to be looking for hopeful stakes, and also we might be wanting to clear Nakayama Turf, but for this run through specifically, it's not too important. We could just wait for the hopeful stakes. So I think I am going to schedule for the hopeful stakes and try and do my best to prepare Mayano Top Gun for that race. It is a G1 race. It is pretty ambitious. G1 races are the highest grade race you can do, and they feature the more stronger Umas that you run with. Through a race, right? If you watch your junior mate debut race, you might notice that there are a lot of horse girls that kind of look generic, that they don't have a lot of features to them. And the reason why is because it's just a low-grade race. Low-grade races are just going to have a lot more people that don't seem very significant. This is what you really want to see for any training. You want to see a lot of your friends in here. Now we're able to boost the friendship with all of them equally by 5 points, and that's going to be very good. Over here, we're going to, even though Wit training is a rainbow, it is a friendship training. This is a friendship training, by the way. And this is why we picked Daiwa Scarlet, is because whenever she does friendship training with us, we get more energy than if we weren't friendship training with her. This is random, by the way. Every Uma, every card in your support deck picks a training randomly. Or sometimes they don't pick any training, right? But we're not going to do this one here because our friendship's already built up with her. We don't really need the energy. And what we really need to do is build up friendship with everyone else. So we're going to go ahead and train stamina, get our friendship up with Maruzensky, get our friendship up with Super Creek. These training events, these are pretty random, but what you want to take note are like the source of these events. And I'll try and go over them the next time we see them. But this is a really nice training over here. Preferred training and plenty of friends. That's exactly what you want to see. And so over here, support a card event. So every time you run this Daiwa Scarlet card in your deck, you have a chance of running into those events. That is what is happening over there. And what we're going to do over here is we're going to train stamina as well. We have a lot of stamina, so we're very much inclined to pick longer distance courses, because if we have a leg up on stamina against everyone else, then that means they're more likely to tire out, while our Uma, Mayano Top Gun specifically, will have more of a shot at being able to beat them and stand above that competition. 18% failure rate on that training. Unfortunately, we did fail it. That does happen. That's just how probabilities work. However, I do think when you're still in favor to usually pick the training. Get Well Soon is the failed training event, and the top option is always going to be safer than the bottom one. So we're going to go ahead and pick that top option. Bottom option does have a chance to high roll and give you benefits, but top option, but the more the option that happens, or rather the outcome that happens more when you pick the bottom option, is that you lose 10 stat and you lose a mood. Whereas the top option is you lose only 5 of that stat that you trained and you lose a mood. So there's a safe option, there's a risky option, right? And generally speaking, I usually would advise newer players especially to pick the safer option. So 18% failure rate right there, but we did the training anyway because it's an 18% failure rate. That's like over 80% success rate, and for sure I'm going to pick that. And this is why you always check your training. Even if your energy is low, always check your training, because you might see someone with like 5 friends in there and that might be worth the risk. Or you could see Wit training, which has significantly reduced failure rates depending on the energy, and is designed to kind of give you a break, right? Give you a little more reprieve from more intense physical training. So over here, Wit training is a friendship training. We get more energy and we have more friends. This is exactly why we play Daiwa Scarlet in our deck. So we're going to go ahead and pick that. Get some energy. And hopefully now we get to see the next round, and maybe we could do something more physical, right? 70%, around 70%, or rather higher success rates here. So I'm going to go ahead and do this training. 3 of them over here. There we go. And sometimes you do get random events. Notice that this card is not within my support deck. Sometimes that happens. It's just whatever card you do own, but it's very rare. And so don't pay too much attention to these events. Usually you want to pick the top one, and that's usually the safer option. So stamina went up. That's totally fine. Now, this is the scheduled race that I scheduled earlier, right? The hopeful stakes. So now what I can do is I can race it, or I can say, let me cancel for now. Let me check my training, because you always want to check your training no matter what, because there might be something you want to do. There might be something really good, but doesn't look like anything's good over there. So we are going to be running the hopeful stakes. Let's take a look at our predictions. Our stamina is superb, but everything else is kind of okay. It does look like we should be a top contender. And what's also nice about this particular race, weather is random. The weather for the track is random. However, if it's raining, if it's snowing, that will soften up the course and make it harder for Umas to plant their feet and push off. What that means is this race course is going to be more suited or more favorable to Umas with significantly higher stamina, because what soft courses do is it drains your stamina more. It drains your stamina at a higher rate. And so definitely I'm seeing a lot of advantages with continuing and doing this race. I was checking the skills there to see if I could buy a skill and give us even more of a leg up, but hopefully we're able to do this. Our speed is pretty low, and so the only thing over here that I can kind of bank on is hopefully my competition doesn't have or rather runs out of energy faster than Mayano Top Gun, or they start their last spurt at a time that's way too late. So, let's go ahead and see. We're going to skip ahead. We are second place, and right here we should be starting our final spurt. And if we get second place, that's going to be good for us, honestly. But third place is totally fine as well. So these Umas just were probably a lot faster than us. Let's go ahead and take a look at the stats with Agnes Tachyon over here. 182 speed, not too faster than us. And sometimes you will see this. You'll see that the speed or stamina just doesn't really compare. But how I look at it is that there's like some sort of difficulty modifier, especially if you look at higher grade races, that probably give other Umas just a little bit of a boost. And how you're going to judge whether or not you can do these races and expect some degree of success is usually by Tazuna's assessment, the predictions beforehand, and your experience, just like where you are in your career and where your stats ought to be. That's just how it is. I understand that some people will find this unfair, but that's just how the game is. So, we're going to keep going here. Third place is not bad, though. That's going to give us a good chunk of fans, which is exactly what we need. The top option for doing a race is usually the better option, or the safer option, rather. What we're going to do here is New Year's resolutions. This happens at the start of every year. There's always a New Year's event. This is specifically the classic year, early January. These three choices are always the same. Top option gives you stats. Second option gives you energy. Third option gives you skill points. If you have anything besides full energy, I will almost always pick the energy option. So, we have over here 26% failure rate, but we do get wit, more friendship recovery, and we do get these 2 friendships. I think that's worth the risk. Let's go ahead and pick that. Every time you see that spark, that shine, that means you've succeeded. So make sure you celebrate early whenever you see that. Okay, 40% is a little too high risk for my blood. I'm going to go ahead and check first what races can I do, because we still need to make 6,000 fans. That is part of Mayano Top Gun's conditions, and I think what I'm going to do is save myself for a G2 race coming up. Notice the G1 race over here. Even if I wanted to race this, I don't, because it's a mile distance track. I can't because I don't have 5,000 fans. I only have 4,115. So if you're finding yourself lacking in options, and this is why it's always a good idea to check your races, you want to make sure that you're understanding like what races you can do and race earlier to gain the fans necessary to allow yourself more options later. The higher grade races you're able to do, the more skill points you get from it, the more benefit you do get from it as well. More skill points, more fans, and more stats. So higher grade races are always worth more, but they're risky because you fight stronger opponents. We're going to go for this G2 race in 3 turns. That's what we're going to schedule out. And I'm going to ask Tazuna to remind me when that race is there. Always a good idea to get that reminder. Great mood is good. This is the mood effect sort of meter or bar. I don't know, like what your moods can be. Great mood is going to improve your training results by 20%. This is always good. Now, you don't want to get to great mood like too quick, or rather, you don't want to waste turns getting to great mood, because in order to get that, you have to spend a turn doing recreation, which is a turn not spent getting you stats. So, typically, early game, when you don't have friendships built up with your Umas, so you don't get those friendship training boosts, and when you don't have high enough training facility levels, right? Right now, we have 3 level 2 and 2 level 1s. I typically like to allow those random events and sometimes scripted events to give me that mood boost, as opposed to wasting turns doing recreation. And that's just going to be a preference thing. I do think it's more efficient. More turns you're spending training is less turns you're spending not training, right? So that's really what it all comes down to. You're going to find a better sort of formula for yourself, what you feel is better. So for sure, that's what's really cool about this game for me, is that everyone has their own idea and their own theory of what success sort of looks like. And the more times you train in a certain way, the more familiar you get with it, the more experience you'll have with that. And I always encourage people to, you know, play the game how they like and come to their own conclusions. So none of those races are very good. We have a heavy track, and this is a rainy track. Let me see if I can find over here. Okay, so for heavy distance tracks, for heavy tracks, even though it's raining, right? Heavy tracks will reduce your speed stat by 50, right? Every Uma's speed stat. So generally speaking, anyone who has really good speed stat is going to come out on top, right? And be able to beat the other Umas. I don't really have good speed stat, as opposed to like my stamina. I do want to race on soft distance tracks. So I'm thinking we probably are going to skip this one. And we're going to try for instead this Tokyo Turf in 3 turns. And we have nice option here in a 2,000 meter or a 2,400 meter. So I'm going to go ahead and instead of doing the race I originally scheduled, opt to delay and do it later. Generally speaking, though, earlier you do these races, the better, right? That gives you a little more room. It's always nice to complete your commissions before the deadline, right? Give you a little breathing room. But what we're going to do over here, we're not going to go for this friendship training for the boost in stats, even though it's nice. Remember, we still want to make sure most of our deck has 80 friendship, because the more cards we have at 80 friendship, the higher chance we get following to get more friendship training. So always good to make sure you're building up your friendships at a nice, balanced, even rate. Let's see over here. We have some good friendship trainings here, but we again need to be building up our friendship. So let's get it with Manhattan Cafe and Super Creek. That's going to help us get the stamina we need to do the Arima Kinen, to do the Tenno Sho Spring. I'm going to cancel this, but I'm going to just keep a mental note that there is a race that I want to do. And I'm looking at all these trainings. All they do is give me maybe friendship with one of my training buddies, right? And so I am going to look instead to this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the longer distance track because I do have the stamina for it. Let's see if I have the skill that I need to learn. Doesn't look like I have a good skill to learn. I mean, I could get homestretch haste. That could be very good. And typically, I don't see too many hints come for homestretch haste during the career. But I want to make sure that I have enough skill points to get Swinging Maestro later, which is going to be at least 323 skill points, unless I get somehow more discounts on it. So that's where I'm going to try to save skill points instead of spending it there. Alright, so let's go ahead and skip ahead. We are second place, but we are picking up and our skill activated. So we're able to smoke Silent Suzuka. Oh my god, she can't keep up. And this is what you want to do. You want to pick up race courses that are more advantageous to your umamusume. Takarazuka may have had better speed than Mayano Top Gun, I'm not exactly sure, but she definitely did have the stamina to beat a 2400 meter track. Mayano Top Gun did, so that's what you kind of want to do. You want to play to your Uma's strengths. Every Uma has an ability to specialize in some sort of track, specific to a distance, specific to a type of turf or dirt. So always make sure you are playing to your Uma's strengths and not to their disadvantages. Gonna be able to level up our friendship here with Madazensky, as well as get a nice double friendship training on speed. Very cool. Nothing good here very much, but we did have Swinging Maestro, and I want that skill point as soon as possible in order for me to be able to beat the Kikuka. And from July to October, there's quite a bit of turns to prepare, so I'm not too worried. Now, if I really was ambitious, I could do these G1 races for some skill points, and I might want to do that. But I think for a beginner, it's probably best to kind of avoid these races. You don't want to waste a turn losing a race, right? I think we'll play it safe. Let's go ahead and instead just train wit. And this is like what I like to view as like kind of like a reroll, and like you're staying instead of like going for a full rest, which doesn't give you any stats. It's nice to go for wit training sometimes to kind of reroll and see your training. Now, if you paid attention, Tazuna was informing you of summer plans, and essentially what she's telling you is that in 2 turns you will enter summer camp, and we'll see exactly what summer camp is. But generally speaking, what you want to do is make sure you have a good amount of energy going into summer camp. So we're going to do a training here, and we're probably going to rest on the next turn. So it is late June, and starting July, we will be going to the summer training camp. This is really nice, but we are going to go ahead and rest instead, and that is a high risk anyway. And now we are in summer camp. So in summer camp, you have 4 turns: early July, late July, early August, late August, that you can do training with higher level facilities, level 5 facilities. And that's going to allow you an opportunity to train in any stat that you didn't really build a lot in. These are level 5 training facilities, and they're only limited or available for 4 turns. So it's good to do that because when you're out of summer camp, then you can rely on the training facilities that you already built up through repetition. What I'm going to do over here is probably go for wit training. Another option here is to rest and recreation. It's not very good for us because we'll get so much energy that we'll overcap. But rest and recreation allows you to rest at the same time as improve your mood. That's another perk of being in the summer camp. But for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to train wit. And because there's our goal is completed next turn, it's not a race next turn, right? We should be able to take advantage of all 4 turns. Some Umas do want to race during summer camp, and sometimes that is unfortunate, but you know, it just happens. Not really much else to say about that. Now we could train the stamina, and that's actually pretty good, or we could train this power, but 42 compared to 10, it's just a little too good to pass up. You know, it's always nice to get ahead of the curve on stamina, especially for a character like Mayano Top Gun. But I am looking to train in power for sure, because that's a lower stat. Now, I would want to train in power normally here, but because of our friendship training in speed, we are able to get plus 14 power as well, because every training gives a main stat and a substat. With the exception of guts, it's a main stat and 2 substats. So, because it's the same whether I train power or I train speed, in respect to my power, I am going to train speed here. If I didn't have that friendship training, I would heavily consider or highly consider training power instead, because having power is always good. Again, I think I mentioned this earlier, but power is related to your acceleration as well as your ability to overtake other Umas during the race. But acceleration is good for everyone, so it's always nice to make sure you have a decent amount of power, even for front runners who don't see a lot of competition for their placement until the very end. We are going to go ahead and either do stamina or rest here. I do think we're going to rest here just because it's not really worth the risk. It is 18%, but you also have to take into account the reward that you get for it, and it's just not that much. Might as well just rest over there, get full benefits, and see what the next training is. Let's go ahead and do a wit training here. We have 3 friends in there. That means more stats. The more friends are in a training, the more stats you will get. Unfortunately, we did get hit with a random event, the migraine blues. You can always inspect your conditions over here. It says cannot gain improvements in mood. We have good mood over here, so that's not too bad. What we're going to do over here, instead of go to the infirmary because we have the Kikuka show coming up, we are going to instead... Is this a 3,000 meter? It is a 3,000 meter. I'm going to... Like, I do think I have enough stamina, but with tracks like the Kikuka show that are 3,000 meter, it's not too bad to just have stamina anyway. Another thing to note is the skill points will get +2, which is not enough for swinging maestro. That's not going to help us out there. And so we have an option to instead train with Director Akikawa, who does give us more skill points. I believe she gives us 5. Or we could train wit as well. And that gives us 5 as well as stats. More desirable stats than if I were to train guts. So, I'm going to go ahead and train wit here. This is a very rare sort of occasion to pick wit. But in order for me to get swinging maestro for the Kikuka show, I went ahead and did that. And so there's all these little micro decisions that you can pick and do and take into consideration. That's what I like the most about this game, is that the more you play it, the more sort of mastery and expertise you'll develop for it, and experience as well. First-hand experience. We're going to go ahead and view a little bit of the race, at least the very end of it, just to see exactly how Mayano Top Gun does. It's always good to inspect your races, just to see exactly what happened. We're not going to see if she rushed, but we are going to see how well she'll do. It looks like Mayano McQueen is going to be able to easily clear her, though, unfortunately. But all we need to do is place within the top 3 for the Kikuka show. Not to worry there. Definitely having that swinging maestro helped us get second place, and would have been really disastrous otherwise. So, not bad over there. Didn't pay attention to the assessment, but if you paid attention to the end of the race screen, Tazuna does tell you above like what you lacked, or at least give her best idea of it. She could be wrong, and generally she's wrong whenever she suggests guts or wit, and she may be wrong if like she suggests speed, but your Uma was blocked the entire time, right? But let's take a look over here. That's really good. That's 4 friends and 2 friendship training boosts. We're gonna go ahead and pick that for sure. We are gonna want to get rid of our migraine sometime soon. Okay, so Director Akikawa gives you 3 skill points. Good thing I picked the wit training instead. I'm gonna head and pick the first option that gives you some stamina. We do have the goal race coming up, the Arima Kinen, and that means we do have to race. I probably should have checked in the turn previous, because nothing over here is gonna help us too much. We do have to race this Nakayama, or yeah, it has to be Nakayama. It has to be that, or one of these G3s. It does say plus 2,600 fans, but it's always going to be a little more than that, especially if you go first place. This is like maybe an average expected. Yeah, this is a little spooky. This is definitely a little spooky. I'm probably going to do this. I think we should be able to get the number of fans necessary for this. But there is a, wow, 3,600 meter. I think that's probably good too. Let's go ahead and hit the infirmary and get rid of our migraine condition, as well as just some energy. Unfortunately, we got another mood down. We're going to race here. We're going to go for this long distance track because we do have more stamina than most. And hopefully that gives us enough fans. We don't have to win it. We just have to place in a big enough position to get the fans we need. So, unfortunately, we can't skip this. You can't skip races that you haven't, like, seen. So, Fortunately, we got a late start, but we're totally beating everyone. Oh my god, it's not even close. What a stomp. Mayano Top Gun. Very, very cool. Alright. Stayers stakes. We are able to take first. We got the 10,000 fans. That's enough for Arima Kinen. And thematically, or flavor-wise, Arima Kinen is a race that you do need fans for, because Arima Kinen is like the race where fans vote to see their most favorite horses participate. And typically that means that they are they're very strong. So Arima Kinen is a very strong competition. It is a very tough competition, and you definitely want to make sure you have the stamina to clear it. 463 should be more than enough. Usually I want to be like around 400, 425 in order to do Arima Kinen comfortably. But we should be good over there. Front running is our strat. Because we are doing this sort of quickly here to try and make the video as accessible as possible. We did not inspect the other horses, but it's always nice to kind of inspect them, see exactly what you're going up against. Unfortunately, we did not place top 3, but I do think we got blocked quite a bit. So we are going to be given an opportunity to retry, use an alarm clock. If you're starting out, I would definitely suggest doing it because it gives you a mood increase. So we had normal mood going in. Now we have good mood, and that's going to give us more racing stats and hopefully allow us the boost that we need to win. So we're first place here. I think we're probably going to get overtaken by one person, if not two. And it looks like we were able to place top 3. I think we only need top 3. It could be top 2, but we got top 2 anyway. So that's very good. Arima Kinen is conquered, but the biggest challenge is yet to come. The hardest one for sure is going to be the Tenno Sho Spring. Hanshin Daishoten is what's coming up next, though. It's a G2 race. Should be pretty easy. However, you don't want to slack because you do want to have the stats necessary for the Tenno Sho Spring following. New Year's Shrine visit. This is senior year, early January. You can see on the top left-hand corner. I want you to stay healthy. I want you to learn a lot and grow. And I want you to become a spectacular adult. First option should be able to give you energy, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And second option gives you stats. Third option gives you skill points. But let's see over here. Not a lot of good trainings, but it's always nice to train power. So we'll go ahead and do that. Power gives you some power, but it also gives you a little bit of stamina. So it's always nice to see a lot of friends there to train with. We're going to go ahead and rest, or rather not do extra training. Unfortunately, got unlucky there. That raffle could give you a carrot, a bushel of carrots, a hot spring ticket, and something else. But typically the carrot is like not so good roll. There is a bad roll in like a tissue box. That tissue box like lowers your mood, and I think maybe even takes energy. It's not very good. But anyway, Hanshin Daishoten, 3 turns coming up. Let's take a look at what we got. Again, it's always nice to get some stamina, especially for the Tenno Sho Spring coming up, so I have no problem with training more stamina. How much stamina is too much stamina? It depends on what you're raising your UMA for. If you're a beginner and you're just trying to clear URA, generally speaking, you can stop around 600, 650, especially if you're a long distance runner. If you're anything that's not long distance, feel free to stop at points below that. But generally speaking, again, it depends on like what you're raising the horse for. If you're raising the UMA to be good in races outside of career mode, which are like team trials or legend race, then more stamina definitely doesn't hurt, especially if you're making a long distance racer. During career mode, your stats have an invisible plus 400 value to them. So like in reality, during career mode, I don't have 521 stamina. I have 921 stamina. And this is throughout the entirety of career mode. So it's always nice to make sure you have more stamina for races outside of career mode. Because what races you're barely clearing in career mode are races your UMA is practically gonna die on outside of career mode. So alright, let's see what we got. Let's see what we get. This is a G2 race, so we're going to have the track wear. We have a late start, unfortunate, but looks like we're able to maintain the lead. Oh, wow. Teiya Mapporo unfortunately did swoop in and take our first position. We just don't have the speed, honestly. The stamina is very good, but we don't have the speed. However, the Tenno Sho Spring is going to show the difference in that stamina for sure with just how long that track is. Inspiration, this is the third or I guess second mid-career inspiration. And you're going to get more of the sparks that you inherited from your Legacy Uma, your parents that you selected at the very beginning of the game. So you can always count on that. Hopefully it's a big roll and not a small one. But what we're going to do over here is we're going to train speed because that's been our problem for all the previous races, right? Was a lack of speed. Let's go ahead and take a look at our skills that we can get. And what I'm probably looking for this time around are skills that will help me push towards the end and also maintain a healthy lead. So ramp up is not very good for front runner, but these skills, the front runner straightaways, should be pretty good. I think I am going to go ahead and pick that up. We're going to get home stretch haste, slightly increased velocity in the final, the last spurt, right? Last spurt over here, slightly increased velocity in the last spurt, as well as the front runner straightaways. Hopefully that can trigger and get us the speed we need to clear it. But notice the predictions, I only had a circle for stamina. Now, Tasuna doesn't take into consideration your skills whenever she gives you that assessment. So I should be good. But if any other Uma has less stamina, I can expect them to struggle and run out of steam or start their last spurt later than Mayano Top Gun. So we are going to skip home stretch haste. Yup. And that lead, the lead that we got there was because we had so much more stamina that we were able to start our last spurt earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to actually watch the replay and see what we can kind of glean from that race performance. Okay, because I do think it's a good illustration on just how important stamina is for long distance umamusume. So let's watch this race over here. And I'm going to basically skip until the late race section. That's where all your stats kind of come into play. That's where speed comes into play, sets your new top speed. And that's where you'll also see stamina because it'll help you start your last spurt quicker. And power because it'll help you accelerate to your top speed quicker. It's where everything is sort of decided. Everything before the late race is literally just maintaining position and some minor skills that affect things. But yeah, here we come towards the late race section. I believe this is where the late race is, right over around here. And try and pay attention to what is happening to each of the horse girls. If they start to lean forward more, like what Mayano Top Gun is doing right now, she is in her last spurt. So she's starting to accelerate and pick up her pace. And she can only do that so early in the run because it's a long distance course. So the late race section is longer. And because she has the stamina. Whenever your Uma is looking at the end goal, they're making a calculation in their head. Do I have enough HP? Do I have enough endurance to go all out until the finish line? And so your max HP, your stamina, is what helps them start their last spurt sooner. It helps them accelerate sooner. And that's where you see that large distance being placed between me and the other competition, Rice Shower, 9 lengths away. That is a stellar performance, an amazing performance right there. But yeah, very, very good. And we're able to clear that goal that is usually seen as the career ender, the Tenno Sho Spring. Now we can kind of take it a little easy. Takarazuka Kinen is a medium distance track. And Tenno Sho Autumn is also a medium distance track. But Arima Kinen at the very end is a long distance. 2,500 meters though. We have enough stamina to clear it for sure. But if I do want to make an Uma that is good for PvP team trials, and specifically for long distance tracks, definitely do not stop building stamina. It's always going to be more beneficial to you. Okay, so over here, 20%. Let's see what the roll is. Nice. We get some speed, because that is what we're going to need for Takarazuka Kinen, as well as the race after that. All right, early June, Tazun is telling us, hey, you have summer camp coming up in 2 turns. We're going to go ahead and rest here because we're really low on energy. And what we're going to do over here, I think we're just going to run it. I think we're pretty strong. We have enough speed, we have enough stamina, and we don't need too much power as a front runner. Like, power is good on anyone. If you have the speed, if you have the stamina, the next thing you want to build is more power, especially for a front runner. But front runners don't compete too hard against other Umas. Ideally, they're pulling away and they're starting their spurt faster than others and breaking away so that they don't have to maneuver around them. Whereas late surgers and pace chasers, they inherently are in competition with other Umas and need to maneuver around them more. So keep that in mind when you're building your stats. If you are building a front runner, speed and stamina is way more important. Stamina being more important for long distance tracks, obviously. If you're talking about sprint or mile and you're just wanting to clear career, you basically don't need any stamina. Okay? So we are good to go on that. Takarazuka Kinen cleared 7 turns to Tenno Sho Autumn. We are in the summer camp beach training phase, and that's going to give us higher facilities. It's also going to allow us the option to use rest and recreation. What I'm going to do over here, because power is my least stat, I get plus 14 power here. With this friendship training, though, the double friendship, it's plus 12, so it's not a big difference. Going to go ahead and train speed here instead of power, because I want to boost that power stat. And over here, nice little stamina boost. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take a rest and recreation, improve my mood, and give myself 50 energy. It's always 50 energy in the summer camp, but you do get mood, which is very nice. I am looking to build my power over here. So I think because it's 8 power from speed training, it's 16 power from here. I'm going to go ahead and build my power. We're going to skip over the stamina friendship training boost because I want to build up my weaker stats during the summer camp. 10 power or 16 power. I'm going to take 16 power instead. That's just going to make Mayano Top Gun into a much more well-rounded, into a much stronger Uma at the very end of it. At least stronger, as strong as I can make her, right? Obviously, your Uma is going to be very... Your Uma's final stats are going to correlate heavily with your support cards, right? The levels of them, how suited they are to your Uma. So there's always like an upper limit towards what deck you're using. Keep that in mind. But my goal whenever I do a career is how can I make the best Uma I can right now? Before the game and during the game, how can I make them the best version of themselves right now? Is always what I try to think about. 9% failure rate, Tenno Sho Autumn. Let's get my speed stat up. And unfortunately, we are in a normal mood. That is pretty bad, especially now when all my friendships are up. Recreation was probably a nice option as well. But if we do fail Tenno Sho Autumn, I think we'll probably fail only once. We might use an alarm clock, and that should give me the mood necessary to place first. I think I need a place first for this Tenno Sho, which shouldn't be too bad. I have the stamina. I have a good amount of speed. Let's see what we do. Skip ahead. First place. Okay. Here we go. Should be very determined. Homestretch haste. Gonna give me that extra speed boost needed for Mayano Top Gun to stay in first place. Hell yeah, dude. Let's go. Very cool. Alright. Tenno Sho Autumn cleared If we get to URA Finale, if we could clear the semifinals, that's definitely what I'm looking forward to do on a fresh account, on a weak account. And if we could clear the finals, that would be insane. That would be amazing. We're going to go with Recreation here. And we're probably going to go with another Recreation, unfortunately. Because we just don't have the energy to train. Probably should have done it the last time. Karaoke's not going to give me energy, unfortunately. And that's why I don't like getting stuck in like doing Recreation so much. Just because it has the potential to waste so many turns. If I had the Karaoke before, I could have rested on this turn. And, or rather, last turn. And instead do a training. But now I'm just kind of forced to rest. And I know this is the last race for the career. It definitely is. However, I do think Mayano Top Gun has what it takes to get to the URA. And so we are just going to, instead of train and risk injury, we are going to instead rest with the intent to train after this race. Let's go with early lead. That should be a good one. Anything that helps us get into position should be good. Always check predictions. And unfortunately, I forgot to check it there. But let's see how well we do. We are number 8 favorite, but I don't think that's usually that bad for Arima Kinen. For whatever reason, it's a little different for this race. And I feel like sometimes they just take into account the number of fans that you have. But yeah, there we go. Early lead. There we go. Accelerating. Very nice. And now everyone's going to kind of settle into a pace and try to... ooh, we got rushed there. Unfortunate, but we might have stamina to do it. Whenever you're rushed, your Uma is consuming stamina at a 60% faster rate. But it's only for like 12 seconds, give or take a few seconds. It does rely on like your wit skill to kind of resist being rushed and also reduce the duration. But let's see how well we do. Here we go for the skill. Nice. Looks like that might be the velocity we need. Oh, here we go. Home stretch haste. Nice. I honestly feel like we could have got second without that home stretch haste over there. Very good skill. Very, very good skill. Absolutely. Great job from Mayano Top Gun. How can you not be proud of this adorable face here? Very cool. Most long-distance Umas are very, like, large, mature, or someone that, yeah, pretty much like larger, older, more mature. It's really fun and interesting to see, like, someone like Mayano Top Gun, who's a total pipsqueak, just absolutely floor them. You know what I mean? So I'm always like that, as whether it's like fighting games or these type of games. It's always cool to see someone break expectations. But yeah, let's see over here. I want to get stamina because I feel like my URA is definitely going to be long distance. Your URA races are going to be whatever racetracks you did the most of. Now, most of what we did were medium distance, however. So, like, the optional races that we did were medium distance, and we obviously had some medium distance runs that were required. So it is probably going to be medium distance unless I picked long distance races optionally. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to train, like, there's friendship trainings here, and these make it very attractive for sure. But I'm going to go with speed, because more speed. Speed is king. Speed level 5 over here. Yeah, remember, always remember, as well as you can, that speed is king. Speed is still the most important stat, even if stamina is really important for long distance runners. Let's go ahead and get that final push. That would have been really cool, right? And I think after that, we'll probably get front runner straightaways or leader's pride. And just make her an ideal front runner. This is a long distance track. It's 3,600 meters. Wow, what an insane distance. I think I'm feeling pretty good about this one. So for the sake of time, we are going to skip this. Second place. That's unfortunate. Usually I like to or expect them to do better for the very first qualifier stage, because it's usually not too difficult. But this is telling me that it's probably very unlikely we're going to be able to see Mayano Top Gun take the finals, but hopefully we could do the semifinals. Hopefully we're able to do that. Hopefully we're able to clear. What I probably want here is just more speed, honestly. I mean, 3,600 meters, I could probably go with some more stamina as well, but let's see how we do over here. Speed and stamina are perfect. Let's go ahead and race. This might be the final race, so let's go ahead and watch it over here. What do we got? All right, early lead, very cool. We'll slow it down when we get towards the end. Swinging Maestro, good. Absolutely essential for these 3,600 meter tracks. With as low stats as I have. Can we keep our lead? Looks like 10 is running out of energy. 6 is catching up. However, we did activate our skill, first place kiss. Can we get the home stretch haste? It's a pretty tough competition right there. I think B was just in the lead just slightly, but come on. No, home stretch. Oh. Oh, no. Unfortunate. All right, we got one more try. One more try. We'll skip towards the end and see the end. Hopefully we're able to beat it. Let's see. See how well she does. Another strat could be to do pace chasing. If I inspected their stats and saw they had more stamina than Mayano, I probably would have done that. But see how we go. Final push and this unique skill. Can we get a home stretch haste as well? Oh, she got the velocity. She got the speed. Oh no, Narita is catching up as well, but it looks like we're catching up. Home stretch haste, come on. Home stretch haste, home stretch haste. We're pushing. We're accelerating faster. Triumphant pulse. Oh my gosh. Home stretch. No. I totally thought we had that. Oh man. That is tragic, dude. It's always going to be a lot harder for beginners to pick up these long distance horses, simply because there's a lot more of a balance that you're going to need. And in the case of Mayano Top Gun, you're going to want to front load stamina because she just has high requirements. If we take a look at Narita Brian and we take a look at Mejiro McQueen, they just seem to have a much more balance of stats. And if you were to like maybe add an imaginary padding to all of their stats, I do think that they ended up having just more speed and stamina than us, unfortunately, which is exactly what you need. The power is there too, 589, 481. That's just a lot of skills as well. Very good skills, all gold skills, right? So yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's expected. You know, semifinals was pretty ambitious, especially for Mayano Top Gun. I would say semifinals is what you would want for someone like Haru Urara, Sakura Bakshino for absolute beginners. But for Mayano Top Gun, I'm happy with this run. I'm definitely happy with this run. Not bad at all. Go ahead and learn a skill at the very end. Typically, you want to save your skill points for this point, but not if you're struggling or if you're barely clearing your career goals and barely clearing your races. In that case, you do want to buy skills during career because it'll give you a little edge on your competition. Here are the final stats for Mayano Top Gun. Let's see what the rating is. It probably is like C+, I would think. Yeah, there you go. C+ rating. Definitely great for any beginner to get this type of rating, especially for Mayano Top Gun. You will see lower ratings and lower ranks for Umas that have a balance of stats, because in order to get higher ratings, and this is not necessarily meaning that they're a stronger horse, but in order to get higher ratings, it's much more favorable to put more stats in as fewer categories as possible. That's going to be it for Mayano Top Gun. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this was helpful to beginners, because I tried to get through more fundamentals and repeat the stuff that I think is necessary for any beginner to learn. But if it's I don't know, let me know your comments below how these videos are going, how these are landing with you. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more of this type of content. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.